Thank you all for coming. Before I start the set, a few years back, I did an EP release to a very, very, very tiny fraction of the number of people here tonight, and I had one of my favorite authors read 10 minutes. He's my favorite modern horror author, author of Ghost Eaters, Whisper Down the Lane, remaking numerous comic books. He's just fucking awesome. His name is McLeod Chapman, and I'm gonna have him read before a set, introducing McLeod Chapman.
Hey everybody, my name's Clay, and I'm gonna read a love story for you guys. This is a piece called The Suitor's Ward. And the only thing you gotta know about this is think of me as a woman. Think of me as a woman, it's all downhill from there. This is The Suitor's Ward. Paul proposed last night. He wanted to get down on his knee for me popping the question properly, but I insisted that he stay in bed. I was afraid that his stitches might rip. I mean, one loose suture could send his intestines spilling all over the floor. Better let those ligatures heal up before you even think about tying the knot. I whispered, hoping not to wake up any of the other patients. You see, Paul had stepped on a landmine the day we met. The paramedics told him to hold his arms like this, holstering his own internal organs long enough for me to take a pair of scissors and cut through his flak jacket. Because the blast had soldered his zipper into this strip of metal. The intense heat just fusing the teeth together. The second I saw you standing over me, he said, I thought I died and gone to heaven. See, most of the soldiers here all call me their angel. Whenever I'm passing through the officers' ward, I can see their faces brighten, their spirits lift. One smile from me and you'd think that these soldiers had forgotten all about their injuries. You'd think that they'd been healed. But the Red Cross never prepped us nurses for the number of marriage proposals I get. See, I walk down the aisle almost every day. Each bed may as well be its own church pew, each one holding its own terminal case. My bridesmaids are all wearing nurse uniforms. The best man had his legs blown off by a piece of shrapnel. Now that's how I met John. He'd come in with about half of his battalion suffering from severe mortar wounds to his upper torso. His lower jaw had just been blown off by the explosion. The bottom half of his face just completely missing. I had to make sure that nothing obstructed his breathing, just listening to his inhales all night. Because if something got caught in his chest, if his wheezing shifted in pitch, well, it was up to me to locate the obstacle and clear a path through his windpipe. The doctors gave him a 10-to-1 chance of surviving the night. None of the other nurses thought that he would make it to morning, so I just brushed the hair out of his face with my fingers. He was a handsome man, I could tell. He woke up about an hour or so later. I saw his eyes for the first time, this deep green, just welling up with enough tears to rinse the grit from his temples. So I just leaned over and pressed my lips against his eyelashes, feeling them flutter against my mouth. I held his hand for 2 days straight, even when it grew cold. I kept my grip. Most soldiers will die in this ward. These beds will be their last, but no one dies alone. No soldier should ever feel as if he has been abandoned. That is the promise that I made. You could call it palliative care when cure is uncommon, but I have been trained to tend to these men's loneliness. A patient will give up before their body does, which only worsens their condition. So I try to give them something to live for simply by showing that I care. It's been difficult dating, sure. One of the nurses here tried to set me up with her brother-in-law, who just so happened to be in the service. He was nice enough. He took me to the movies, drinks afterwards. He even walked me back to my barracks. We kissed briefly, but still felt awkward. Not that he had done anything wrong, really. I mean, he had been a perfect gentleman all evening. It's just that you get so used to comforting the suffering that when nothing's wrong, you feel like there's something missing, right? I mean, not that I am so beautiful. I mean, you would be hard-pressed to pick me out from a crowd. And oh my God, after a 16-hour shift, I am so exhausted. I must look like a zombie walking back to my barracks. And I know that this has nothing to do with my looks, but more with what's happening out there in the field. We will pull out these cots from storage whenever there's an air raid, welcoming in the wounded with enough morphine to send them right back to sleep. And if they come to, when they come to, well, they'll wake up to me. And these soldiers can act just like little boys sometimes, just afraid of the dark. Especially at night. During the day, they're fine, but as soon as the lights slip off, the sense of defenselessness slips right in. You would all think that they were just little boys, just calling out for us nurses, desperate for some attention. We have to schedule twice the amount of inspections at night, checking up on the wounded 2 or 3 times throughout the evening, and that is when these soldiers propose. Yeah, I'll be on my rounds, checking through the officer's ward, when one of them will just grab me by the wrist and drag me over to their bed, just begging to wed. If he's an amputee, he will roll out of his cot on purpose, just so I have to lift him back up again and put him into his cot. When I get better, why don't you and me run away, huh? God, as soon as I'm back on my feet again, I'm coming back with the ring. The second I'm out of this hospital, let's get hitched, huh? The trick is to never say no. Not outright. You have to keep their hopes up so that they will heal. Sometimes you are the only hope they have. If they will not do it for themselves, they will do it for you. So I started saying yes. I said yes to Private Thompson with his torn abdomen. I said yes to Lieutenant Miller with 3/4 of his body covered in 3rd-degree burns. I said yes to every soldier whose chances at survival continued to dwindle the more their fear of death overwhelmed them. I said yes to Tom, who had been shot 5 times straight across the chest during hostile fire, puncturing his lungs in 3 different places. His breathing? Oh, his breathing bubbled over so much, the doctor said that he would drown before they would even be able to put him onto the operating table. And when he heard this about himself, when he heard what the doctor had said, Tom just took me by the hand. His chest heavy, every breath just whistling through his wounds, saying, I'll be thinking of you in there. I'll be thinking of you too, Tom. If I pull through this, man, will you please come visit me? Of course, Tom, I promise. The turnover of soldiers is so swift here, it is becoming difficult to keep up with my marriage vows now. They just keep coming right in, one after another. When one bed empties, I have a new fiancé filling in. There's barely enough time to change the bedspread, because when a patient passes away, I have to be the one to wheel the body out of the ward, making sure to smile at the soldier in the neighboring bed, my lips lifting his spirits, holding his hopes up. I am a widow. 100 times over. This clipboard is my bouquet. It is a floral arrangement of ailments, assorted with a half-dozen amputees, sprigs of injuries. I will toss it to the other nurses once my shift is over. All of them just scrambling to grab it, just to see who gets to wed next. Thank you.